Hello, crafters. This is Yana Smakula for SimonsSaystium.com. Welcome back for another Yippee for Yana episode. All supplies I'm using for this project are listed and linked in the video description below. In this video, I'm creating a Christmas card. This project is very easy to make, it is very easy to copy, and super easy to mass produce. This card features a stylish, clean and simple design with a lot of drama achieved with the help of colored cardstock. And if you know me, you know that this is something I simply adore. Here I have a new stamp set from Simons Says Stamp. This is the Fresh Air Holiday Tree set, and it is gorgeous. Oh my gosh, you guys, it is beautiful. Now, this is a layering set, and I am a huge fan of sets like this, especially when they are done well. And believe me when I say this stamp set is done exceptionally well. This brushstroke Christmas tree design is stunning. Now, I like to cut the top part of the packaging off when I get my stamps, as this makes it easier for me to take things out of the plastic and put them back in before I transfer the stamp set to my storage sleeve. On the back of the packaging, you have a little cheat sheet that tells you how you can stamp and layer these images and how you can combine them. Now, there's also a set of coordinating dies available, and the die will cut the tree. It has 2 banner sizes to die cut the sentiments, and also 2 star sizes to cut the little stars for you that you can put on top of the tree. But you can also use the stars as little ornaments on your tree if you want. The size of this tree is pretty big, and it easily takes center stage on your card, and I love it. I love the size. It's perfect for A2 cards. So the tree has 3 layers. You have the first layer, the second layer, and then the third layer. And you also have 2 different options to decorate the tree with. You can decorate the tree by adding little snow, or instead of snow, these little dots can look like ornaments, like tiny little ornaments on your tree. And you also have a garland going diagonally across your tree. I'm going to quickly show you how I stamp the tree using 2 sets of ink pads. So here I have the first set, and this is Aspen, Sage, and Pine. I love these colors from Simons Says Stamp, and these are the Simons Says Stamp Positively saturated inks. The great thing about these inks is that they come in groupings of 3, so you have 3 shades, a light, medium, and dark. And this is exactly what you need to stamp an image like this one. Of course, you can also use any other ink pads that you might have in your stash. You'll just need to have a light green, a medium green, and then a dark green. Since I'm using my mini MISTI stamping tool, and by the way, I have the Waffle Flower grip mat inside my MISTI, so I took out the black foam pad and I replaced it with this grip mat, and it is fantastic. I have been using it a lot lately. You guys have seen it in many of my videos recently. It is really a beautiful, beautiful tool or improvement to add to your MISTI. So be sure to check it out if you haven't already done so. Now, the second ink combo that I'm using is a little lighter. It's a more brighter green, and it is Sprout, Fairway, and Field. I'm stamping all images twice. I'm double stamping them onto my paper, and I'm doing this for several reasons. First of all, this is a brand new stamp. It hasn't been seasoned. It hasn't been used. So it helps to do the stamping twice. And also my ink pads are super juicy. You can see as I press the ink pad onto the stamp, I am getting quite a lot of ink out of there. Now, this stamp set is very easy to align because it's so artistic, because it's so sketchy. There really is, there's no precise, correct way to align it. If you don't like the layering stamps because some of them are very hard to align, this is not one of those stamp sets. This is a set where you have a lot of freedom and a lot of movement, and where layers don't need to be aligned precisely. Now, I say this, and I mean this, if you do not want to use the coordinating die. You'll see later that once I finish my stamping, I take the coordinating die and it does not match. It does not align. So if you are just stamping your image onto a background and you do not plan to cut it out, go ahead and stamp it and go ahead and align it any way you want. If you do, however, want to die cut your stamped image out, and I'll show you that, you must die cut the cardstock first. So you'll go ahead and die cut a sheet of white cardstock or whatever cardstock it is that you want to do your stamping on, and then use that as a guide for your stamping. And again, I'll show you that in just a minute. So as I finish stamping my Christmas tree, as I layer that last ink color, you can see how beautiful this looks and how easy it is to stamp. Seriously, guys, this takes no time, no effort at all. And if you want to mass produce, if you want to stamp a bunch of these trees, you can do that in no time. It's a brilliant set. That tree image is fantastic and I just love it. I love the size. I love the artistic look. I love the brush strokes. It's just beautiful. Now here I have the coordinating die, and as you can see, as I layer it over my stamped image, it does not exactly layer perfectly. But that's okay. If I just want to use this image on a panel without cutting it out, my tree looks absolutely perfect. If I do want to use the coordinating die and die cut the image, I first need to cut the image out, as I did here. So I started with a panel of white cardstock. This is Neenah Solar White, by the way, and I die cut my Christmas tree. Now I'm placing that cardstock back inside my MISTI. I'm using it as a guide, and I'm placing my die cut back inside that opening. And I'm now using the die cut as a guide to tell me where my stamping needs to go. This way, you do need to do a little bit of planning, a little bit of alignment. But again, guys, this is super easy to do. I'm going to use the exact same colors of ink here, but I'm actually going to mix those up. So I'm using pine, sage, and instead of using aspen, I'm going to use one of the brighter greens to have a brighter green color for my third layer. Again, I'm double stamping all of the layers to have more ink on my image, and I love the result. Beautiful, perfect for Christmas. I love the imperfect, the messy look of this Christmas tree. It's just beautiful. You can tell how excited I am by this stamp set. I love it. Like I mentioned, you have options. You can add 2 different layers onto your Christmas tree to decorate it with. You can also leave it as is. It does look beautiful as is. I wanted to add some additional heat embossing over this image. So I'm now using my heat tool and I'm trying to dry this image. I will say that I didn't do a very good job. I did not dry this completely, and I also did not test if my image was dry before I went and did my stamping and heat embossing on it. So my heat embossing isn't 100% perfect, but that's okay. You know, this I'm okay with it. I did not stress. I did not worry about it. I did not toss this die cut. I kept on going because I really loved the look. If you are mass producing, if you're not in a hurry, you can stamp a bunch of these, or you can stamp one of those, let it sit for, a couple of hours, come back to it, and then do your heat embossing over your stamping. I never have any patience. I always want to finish my cards right away. So I did not wait, and you'll see the result in a little bit. So here I have a panel of Simon Says Stamp Soft Navy Cardstock. I love this paper. I mean, it is a beautiful, gorgeous shade of blue, perfect for all sorts of different cards, but also perfect for Christmas cards. I love this dark blue color for the backgrounds of my Christmas cards. So I treated this panel using Simon Says Stamp anti-static powder tool, and I stamped one of the sentiments. There are 3 sentiment options included in this stamp set. You have one that says Season's Greetings. I actually have 2 of those heat embossed in white on red cardstock because I was kind of testing and trying different options for the sentiment. So you have Season's Greetings, Joy to the World, and Merry Christmas. I heat embossed the Merry Christmas in Simon Says Stamp Antique Gold Embossing Powder at the bottom of my panel. So the plan is to have the Christmas tree in the center of the panel, and then my sentiment sort of frames it or grounds it at the bottom there. I actually heat embossed this image twice. Lately, I really love the look of, I guess you would say, double layer of embossing powder. It doesn't always work. You kind of have to be careful when you do it, but I like having more embossing powder on my images. So I double heat embossed it. So with my embossing done, I let the powder cool for a few seconds. I then placed the panel back inside my MISTI. I stamped the image again. I added more powder, and now I'm using my heat tool to melt that second layer of powder to have one layer, like one thicker layer of embossing powder on my panel, and I love it. With my background done, I returned to my Christmas tree image and I placed it back inside my mini MISTI. I have added my garland on top. And again, I'm stamping it in clear embossing ink as I want to heat emboss it in that same antique gold embossing powder. I'm going to add embossing powder over this image, and you can see that my die cut was not completely dry. You can see that the embossing powder is all over the place. Like I said, I did not get discouraged. I used a dry paintbrush. I first used this big one, but then I later switched to a smaller one. And I basically just cleaned my die cut. It did take a little bit of time. It's not something ideal. I mean, you really do want to let your die cut dry to avoid having to do this. But it all worked fine in the end. I love the result. So once all of the stray embossing powder particles were cleaned, I used my heat tool and I melted the powder. And if you want, you can even combine the garland with the falling snow. There's nobody stopping you from using both of the layers on one Christmas tree. Or if you want to add additional ornaments to your Christmas tree, you can do that by adhering some gems or adding some little embellishments to your Christmas tree to mimic ornaments. There's a lot you can do. I mean, guys, this is a Christmas tree and you can decorate it however you want. Honestly, there's lots and lots you can do. Okay, let's go back to the background. I knew I wanted to add some ink blending. So here I'm using the Simon Says Stamp Royal ink pad. This is the nice dark blue. And I'm adding a heavy layer of ink blending from the top, basically almost all the way to the bottom. I'm just not adding any ink blending over the sentiment. Next, I'm coming in with black ink. This is the VersaFine Onyx Black ink. This is the kind of ink that I usually use for stamping sentiments, but I also like to ink blend with this ink sometimes to add some dark color to my background. While the ink is drying, I went ahead and I die cut 2 additional Christmas tree die cuts from white cardstock, and I'm gluing them all together to create one sturdy die cut. I'm using magnets on my work surface to hold the die cut in place and flatten it a little bit and wait for the glue to dry. And with that dry, I am going to use foam adhesive squares to add my Christmas tree onto my background. And I also heat embossed and die cut a couple of stars. I created both of the stars, the big one and the small one. I wasn't sure which one I wanted to use, but I ended up using the smaller star on my Christmas tree, and I love the result. This card was super easy to make, and I love the way this looks. So here's a look at the finished project. I hope you like it. I hope you feel inspired to create. If you make a card inspired by this video, we'd love it if you shared your project online and tagged us on social media. Thanks so much for spending time with me today. Love you guys, and I'll see you next time.
Hi there, I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at simonsaysstamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.